Salutare ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim and welcome to the Sounds German review of the new Belphegor album Totenritual. Belphegor, of course, is the Austrian black/death metal band, depending on what album you are listening to, and they are around since the mid-90s. Early 90s actually, if you want to go really way back to the time where they were still active under another name. And while only one founding member, called Helmut Lehner, is around from that time, it shows that this band has some experience behind it when it comes to their compositions and creations. I am personally always a little bit nervous doing my review on such a seasoned band, because really, what is there to say that hasn't been said before? I'm just a nerd with a microphone, and a band this long-standing must have established a loyal fan base by now, and people who can put their thoughts into words in a more capable way than I can have probably taken some in-depth looks at their music. But then again, I'm here to tell you about music from this area of the world, so I guess that's what I'll do. And this album really keeps what it promises, greeting you right away with screeching guitars and fast drums, with vocals that either are a deep, guttural growl or shriekingly screamed. And speaking as a rough summary, this is what the whole album delivers. Now, I'll admit that I'm not the biggest death metal fan, and this album didn't necessarily turn me into a believer, but Belphegor undeniably delivers some punchy tracks on here. The track The Devil's Son offers you a lavish guitar-driven bridge while the drums keep hammering on. Swine Fever, Regent of Pigs, has short little guitar solos that on the one hand fall out of line, but somehow manage to fit in seamlessly nonetheless. I especially enjoyed the track Totenbeschwörer, which is a purely acoustic piece in the middle. It comes off a lot heavier and slower paced than the rest of the album, and instead of having this aura of brutal thrashing, is a rather melancholic track, I feel. Which at this point in the album actually quite surprised me, but having this breather in the middle was definitely nice and welcome, because that's definitely what it is. It's a little relaxing piece in the midst of the album, and it takes the foot off the gas for just a moment. Because, and this might be because I don't listen to a whole lot of death metal myself in my free time, this was one of those albums for me where the tracks just bled into one another at some point. Because from start to finish it felt like it's just fast, hard metal song after fast, hard metal song. And sure, I can enjoy that, but here I was really missing at least some variety. This album turns it up to 11 from the very first moment, and it almost never slows down. And to be quite honest, by the end of it, I personally was bored of it. It was just too much of the same in a too condensed space for my liking. However, I want to stress that I don't think or feel that Totenritual is a bad album. It would be an absolute lie to say I was unimpressed with its technicalities, so to say. For example, how the band seems to absolutely effortlessly switch between up and low tempo in the song Totenkult. Or how they all of a sudden seem to completely switch genres near the end of the song Embracing a Star. All of a sudden, the machine gun-like drumming stops its barrage and plays it slow. The guitars don't sound like their strings are getting shredded by a four-armed demon anymore, but instead also take it clearly slow, with drawn-out riffs and the vocals turning into demonic whispers in your ear. It's a great transition they managed to pull off beautifully and in the blink of an eye almost. Some things, on the other hand, left me scratching my head a bit. Like, for example, the eponymous song Totenritual is under 3 minutes long, with the last minute being basically an ambient-ish outro, so to say. The song is basically over before it could really get going. And for basically being the name-giving track of the album, well, it surprised me a bit. And if you like an album full of brutal riffing and drumming paired with monstrous growls and screams, this album will be an absolute feast for you. It would be absolutely amiss to say it doesn't deliver on that matter. I guess one could accuse them of playing it a bit safe or cliché, but if this is the kind of music you really enjoy, this album is an absolute satanic blast. If you're looking for something experimental though, well, this is not it. Totenritual moves very much in the known, well-explored boundaries of the genre. If you want to see that as a positive or a negative aspect, well, that's entirely up to what you like. I feel that with albums like these that basically hammer you with their soundscape all the time, the mix is something quite important, and I'm happy to say that Belphegor managed to deliver on that front too. Drums and guitars pack a nice punch, presence is added when it's needed to certain instruments or the vocals, and the vocals generally never get drowned out, which can be a pet peeve of mine. Given how loaded the tracks are on this album sound-wise, this might be one of the best mixes I've heard in a long time actually. So, as a conclusion, if you're looking for an album that is calm, gives you a positive, warm feeling inside, or breaks new ground in whatever genre, move on, because Totenritual ain't for you. Belphegor tread well-known ground here, and to be fair, bands who are around for this long are not necessarily known to stray too far from the path anymore. This thing is technically impressive and feels very refined overall. Still, by the end of it, I personally was a bit bored. It just offers very little in the way of variation, even in itself, too little for me to make this about 40-minute ride really enjoyable. If you dig death metal, however, I would recommend you give this album definitely a try, because I feel it's really good in many regards. It's just not my cup of tea. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like or just subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I will post at least one review per week, more content whenever I can manage to do it. You can also follow me on Facebook and or Twitter, links are in description, and also in the description you will find shopping links for this album and any relevant music videos or album streams if there are any. And if you have listened to this album, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, I hope to see you again next time. Have a nice day. Salida!